how did you know exactly where to search? Obviously, he'd been seen possibly in the middle of the road. What led you to a specific part of the river?
Well, once I got to the location, Charlie McNeil notified me. We got together, we got our gear together, and he said, I will drive you to the location that Matt was last seen where he entered the water. And so he drove me directly to the area, which is listed as Driscoll Bay. And it's a little public fishing area with a small dirt ramp access to the river itself.
Was there anyone fishing in this area at the
From
time?
what I understand, there was somebody there, a witness, that was potentially fishing. But the area is also frequented by other people. It's kind of a secluded area, nice, beautiful area to pull off, and loaded with butterflies, and right now chock full of mosquitoes. I don't recommend going in there if you value your blood. So with that said, yes, we entered that area and awaited another team member, Sue, to come with her kayak. And mind you, these are nothing expensive. They're just sit on top. And I was very concerned with, their physical capabilities and their, because safety is first and foremost, of course. And so we gathered at the river and we discussed an entrance plan, a search plan, which the search plan literally was just to man both sides of the bank and to stay together as a group to maintain the safety. And where is the exit plan going to be? And they entered the water at about, the time I have listed is about 1:30 p.m. when they entered the water. At that point, a drone operator came to the scene as well and donated his services. I believe his name was Daniel. And he got his drone into the air as we were pushing the boats off into the current. I watched them drift southward and out of sight, and then I went up to assist the drone operator and await a call for exit point for the crew to exit. I would say it took about an hour, maybe and a half, and I got the call from Danielle on the cell phone, and she said, "We have him. We found him." And from that point, I immediately contacted our Find 911 search and rescue reps, and I asked them to contact the sheriffs immediately, but I could not give them an exact ping location because we were on the road, ready to assist the crew exiting from the water, and which that was, we found Matt about 3.5 miles exactly from the entry point where he entered the water, and it was very shallow where we found him, and luckily, because that's what helped us locate him, was the shallow water, because and Danielle's seen a small piece of the jacket submerged in brown water and brown jacket, so very difficult to spot. And from that point, they approached the body, and they loaded it into the boat, which isn't a normal practice for us. We normally mark it, call the sheriffs, have them deal with it. But being that the current was there, they were afraid that they would lose him, and if he went down that river, we would not find him. And being that they were very close to Matt, and they, I think that their adrenaline kicked in, and they loaded him into the boat. From that point, as I said, they gave me the call. We found him. We're loading him into the boat. And I said, "Where's your exit point?" And they told me it was about 20 minutes south of them, and give me the exact location. And from that point, I called Noah and informed him. And he hurriedly went to the site, and as well as I went to the site, and we awaited the boats. We could see the boats coming in, and we were on the ramp for the boats, and we assisted the boat out of the water, Noah helping, of course, and we picked up the boat with Matt in it. He was covered, and Noah's still in a surreal state of disbelief, and of course I understand that. And from that point, the sheriffs asked us to carry the boat up out of the water, and we as a group grabbed the boat, carried it up the ramp, and put it in an area where the coroner could come and make the determination of who the person was, and they identified him as Matt.
And how many people was it? How many people did it take to help get him into the boat? That must be quite a difficult situation.
The guy in the boat, very strong man, and very lots of time in that river, so very comfortable with getting out into the water, frigid, cold, rapid water with sticks and logs and debris floating by. He was able to load Matt in, but he took on a lot of water in his little boat, and literally when his boat came in, I would say 2 inches, maybe 3 inches of the boat was above the water. So he was almost sunk the entire time as he was coming in, but he was being assisted by 2 other ladies, making sure that it was a safe situation, and they all made it in all right.
And what did you cover him with as well for his dignity?
He was covered when he entered with life jackets and whatever was in the boat, maybe a small jacket and a couple life jackets.
And the brown jacket that you mentioned that they saw first, he was wearing that?
Yes, he was.
Yes. And that was that, just to talk through, that was the thing that you noticed first via the drone, and that was how you knew where to spot him?
No, ma'am. The drone didn't yield any results.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, the drone was searching the banks behind the boats, and the boats were slightly ahead of him, and it was actually the group of kayakers that, like I said, it's a very tedious situation, examining a brown river that's rapid with ripples. It's very hard to see over a little wave, so a power boat wouldn't have been a good option. Even a helicopter with the updraft wouldn't have helped the situation. But the drone itself at this time did not yield anything. It was a identification of one of the kayakers that actually was the winning factor here.
Right. And obviously it's heartbreaking to find somebody like this, but I imagine also rewarding to reunite someone with their loved one. How did it feel both for you and the rest of the team of volunteers?
Well, of course, there was a lot of emotions stirring, especially with Charlie, who located Matt, and Charlie was, saying prayers for him, and Charlie's wife Danielle was a bit stirred when she made the call to me that we have located him, and I told her to take a breath and good job, and I another person that was on the front of the boat with Charlie that I forgot to mention was Jamie, Matt's girlfriend. She was very overwhelmed with emotions, to say the least, and she was being comforted by Sue as Charlie assisted the body down the water. Sue kept her looking forward and not looking, and holding her. And so, yeah, there was a lot of emotions for them, but, and for me personally, knowing Miss Amy and knowing Rain, and just knowing how The family has a lot of love for each other, despite their, ongoing, sometimes they, typical brother sister love thing. They feud back and forth, but I know that they all love each other, and I know that Amy loves her kids extremely. And so, with that said, so of course my heart goes to them, but um, there is a feeling of confirmation that I have, knowing that we as searchers and trackers doing what we're doing to locate people to give resolution to their mothers, and it is a bit of a confirmation feeling, but I would say it's a bit bittersweet. It's not really rewarding. It's more of a confirmation. And we don't intend it for publicity. We don't intend it for reward. I use all my own money to train my tracking dogs. I train police dogs. I train canines. I use all my own money to, get the crew where they need to be. And so we're not doing it for reward, but it is a great feeling of confirmation, to say the least.
Yeah, that was something I was going to ask you, whether you were paid for this and whether you get donations and things
No,
like
no
that. You do it
GoFundMe.
out of the goodness of your heart.
Yes, ma'am. No GoFundMe's. No, um, if it would have been too ongoing, and I would have reached out to the community for, many people already said, hey, we have a bed for you to sleep on. That way we don't have to pay for hotels. They say, hey, we have food for you. Now we're not paying for food. Hey, we have some kayaks and so everything was brought to the table. And that's how I've been conducting every search. Every search I've done on the reservation and the surrounding areas has been complete volunteers and complete groups of people bringing their hearts to the table, which is the most effective tool that we have in search, is the love and the straight up, them bringing their hearts to the table. So.
And you say Jamie, his girlfriend, do you know how long they'd been dating for, and at what point during the search did she show up?
Well, actually, she was there from the get-go. She was one of the first peoples and most concerned persons that I believe was there. Although she didn't say much, she didn't talk much, but you could see she was extremely concerned, and she was very pushy. Let's get these boats into the water. I want to be on the boat with them. Originally, she was going to be on the boat with me, but I thought, well, me and you? I think that it would be better if Charlie, who's owned the boat, operated it, and knowing his equipment and its capabilities, and I manned the shore and the drone and the potential oncoming volunteers, which never arrived, of course. So, but Jamie was on the helm. She was literally on the helm of the boat, looking and searching and hoping, of course, I'm sure, that it wasn't him, but very concerned that it was. So, yes, she was involved from the beginning to the end on that search.
And how was she when he was finally found?
As you can imagine, she was in a state of total shock. And, the girls embraced her and held her. And I can only imagine how she felt. I really can't speak for her, but she was standing on the bank and not moving, and total shock. And with that said, that's the only emotion I could see that she was in, because, of course, and then Noah himself also, and they kind of took their own area, and I thought they needed a little space, which I give, but the girls, of course, they, being the moms that they are, and they just went and embraced her.
Absolutely. It must have been quite the scene over there. Did you keep in touch with the family? Is that something you would normally do? But obviously in this case as well, you knew him personally. Did you keep in touch with them afterwards?
Well, these searches, from what I've experienced in my 12 finds and 12 searches, they run emotions a little high, and a lot of times there's even a lot of resentment and other feelings that come to the surface. So I really, if they want to reach out to me, that's one thing. But I think right now they really need they really need the space to deal with their own feelings, and they don't need any residual information. And if they do, they'll contact me. So I try really to just do my thing and let them maintain their space. And being celebrity people and being high profile, you can imagine the millions, literally, of views and comments that they get. And mine only needs to be about information. And if they need that, they have my number, and they will contact me if needed. But I think as of now, they have all the information, and I think they probably need a little time and privacy to work these feelings and emotions out.
And family had also mentioned that there may have been photographs circulating online of his body. I don't know whether they were real, whether you saw anything like that. It's quite distressing.
I'm noticing a lot of fake or news, I guess you'd call it, with many boats there that weren't there, and because there was no professional equipment there, literally a little aluminum fishing boat, a little blue kayak, and a little gray kayak. That was
Yeah.
it.
I did see you share something on your Facebook of that, so I was wondering whether maybe the pictures that she was referencing could have been fake or something. You get a lot more of this these days, don't you?
Absolutely. So the pictures that I put in there were the actual pictures and of course I did not post anything of Matt's body. A matter of fact, I didn't even personally, I prefer not to see that myself. Because, he was a good guy, and I did like him, and I actually, I very intelligent, very good guy. So I'm not about publicizing any of that. That's not what I'm about. But um, you know, maybe I there could have been pictures of the body that I'm not aware of. It's possible.
And do you think there are enough resources available for missing persons searches or remote or challenging terrain? It's also seen you post something about there's quite a few people bashing the sheriff's department for not already finding him and you having step in.
When emotions run high in a community where rumors also run high, um, like I said, the searchers are the only ones they have to blame. And as well, I was telling you, some of those residual energies um, run on to the people looking for them, especially if they don't find them. And if they do find them, it can still bash them for publicizing. Or the reason I publicize these searches is that is the only platform I have to bring attention, to bring people to the table, to bring eyes, to get out the missing persons reports, and that's all it's about. You know, but the sheriff's department in this case, I think they did the best they could with their resources, but their lack of knowledge of the river is not their fault. And a lot of them are from out of state. We've been on that river and in that area since we were little kids in the 1970s, and we're extremely confident on the river. And what would be dangerous conditions to someone would be inner tube weather for us. So yeah, I don't think anyone should look down on the sheriffs for, a lot of people said they weren't, that they didn't search long enough, because apparently it was someone said, oh, they only searched 6 hours total. And many things were said. I can't vouch for any of that, but I do know that if anything, my groups would just like to assist and help and be a part of it if possible. But a lot of times what I'm finding is the politics won't simply, I don't know, something clashes, and they don't. So far, they're not real accepting of my help. They've been a little tough on me in the situations, and I literally asked them for permission, and I don't want to get in your way, and I don't want to wreck your track or your route, but we're going to come in with all these carrying people that want to look, because you know, in several cases before, I mean, literally a week before, I was involved in another case here in Moses Lake. 2 weeks before that, I was involved in another case of a missing Indigenous elder, and which we located, um, and but many people come to the table that want to help and are concerned. And my main job is collaborating and organizing these searchers. I literally let most of them use their heart to go where they think he would go. Use your own intuition, and then I'll list where you went and list these routes, and then I'll be suggestive to other people on that route has already been searched. Maybe you want to check another area, and that's literally my whole platform of how I organize the searchers, is based upon their own intuitions, their own knowledge of the terrain and topography, and their just their heart, and that's been making our finds.
Definitely. And is there anything that sticks in your mind from Jamie or from Noah that was said afterwards?
There is, but truly, I'd love to let them speak for themselves, because I would hate to say the wrong thing, and maybe my perception of what was said, and well, but my only thing that sticks in my head is, how a brother is going to receive and deal with that pain, and how they're going to deal with that pain and the loss. That's my only really thing that I was thinking, even as they were speaking. I was only thinking in my heart that, I have brothers, and this is going to be a tough one. And Noah was trying to be very strong. He was trying to maintain his self, and I could see him thinking of how he's going to tell his family about this. I could see that was weighing heavy on his mind, and Miss Jamie, she was just an absolute shock. She didn't say a word, and as you can imagine, it was very tough on both of them.
Well, I'm sure they're very thankful for everything you've done and for your team, and we wish the family well. Well, thank you so much for joining us and for everything that you do.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Bye.
As the investigation continues, authorities are expected to confirm the circumstances surrounding Matt's death in the coming days. For those involved in the search, it's clearly been a difficult and emotional effort, ending in a result no one was hoping for after days of uncertainty. Thank you for watching, and like and subscribe for more videos like this one from the US Sun.